Well, well, well. Hello. I am going to do a very low production value video where I'm just recording my screen and my voice to walk everybody through this first iteration of the assignment where we're introducing the concept of literate programming, because I made some assumptions when I first created that assignment that turned out to not be true, and I feel like people need a bit more scaffolding and structure to really kind of get to where we all want to be in terms of starting out with these tools. I don't like to focus on tools too much, but this one I want to make an exception because I really want to have you embrace the concepts of literate programming throughout the assignments in the class. I feel like that learning outcome of adopting those habits is really, really important in modern data science. So that's what we're going to do. You can see here that I've just started with kind of a blank art studio, like I just fired it up kind of thing. And before we get to that, I just want to remind everybody, what we're marching through and where we're headed. So if I kind of just bring this over into the screen so you can see, and I'll make it a bit bigger. I don't know how this video is going to turn out in terms of resolution. And so this is sort of my website, which will allow me to get to the course website, which all of you have hopefully kind of navigated before. And underneath the quick links, which is mostly resources, we've got the posts, and just as a reminder, we can order them or filter them or use these keywords. And really what I want to do is talk about this one. Assignment number 1, fun with literate programming. And the idea of literate programming, of course, is that your code is executed to do a thing, and that code is interspersed with well-formatted documentation that describes the program's logic. And this really, really helps in terms of reproducible research, which all of you should care about. So there's assignment 1, there's its little icon, which I like. Nobody's ever asked me where those come from. Apparently no one cares. Awesome. Anyway, this is the assignment which you've all read and sort of confronted and worked on to varying degrees of success, depending on your background and things like that. There's lots of kind of publishing systems that you can work in. I'm gonna do these examples in Quarto until somebody shows me that they want to work in a publishing system that can do the same kinds of things conceptually. Great. We'll just stick with Quarto, and I'll assume everybody's working in it until somebody tells me differently. Quarto is the successor to R Markdown, which was sort of created by the RStudio folks, who now call themselves Posit, because Quarto it's not just for R. You can create all sorts of different cool stuff using any combination of R, Python, Julia, Observable, JavaScript, whatever you want. So here's all of the engines that, for example, you can use in this system. Fortran if you want. Yay. Anyway, and like I said in class, there's lots and lots of languages and tool sets for data visualization. These are really major ones, but geez, there's tons that you can use. And I don't want to limit people in terms of what they use, but like I said, for the time being, I'm going to work the examples in R because that's what I know. I'll do a separate video because I know a couple of you like Python, and we're going to try to get Python working within our Quarto environment. That'll be in a different video, Cody. Okay, and then the assignment is to essentially set up your publishing system on your computer in your language, and then recreate that classic figure from Anscombe's quartet. And what I assumed was like, okay, I can just give you guys some links, and off you go to the internet, and you'll just figure this out, and it'll be learning, and it'll be fun. And I regret doing that because I think what I did was I've been doing this for over a year now in terms of teaching myself all these new tools and things, and that's what I did. But I mean, it took me longer than if somebody had just handed me this assignment. It would, right at the start, I'd been like, whoa, what? Wait, what? You know, and so I was biased with my own knowledge, and when I created this assignment, in terms of assuming that it would be straightforward. So, let's just walk through what the plan is, and remember, the idea of the assignment is the literate programming part. The kind of demonstration example we're using is Anscombe's quartet. Okay, so anyway, there we go. That is the assignment. So I'm gonna just move this out of my way again. Hopefully my audio is still working. And we're back to RStudio. And I know from class everybody's got this far for sure, right? Everybody got R and RStudio installed on their our machine. You can see in my console, apparently I'm using the bird hippie version of R. Maybe you are too. I don't know. I assume I'm all updated and things like that. Anyway, eventually we're going to get to the point where we're working in terms of projects and like Quarto projects instead of individual documents. But for right now, let's just do a document. Now, so what I'm going to do is go File, New File, Quarto document. And you can see there's tons and tons and tons of things that you could do here, but we're going to work in a Quarto document. And it comes up and it says, okay, so what do you want to call it? And I'm going to call it, this is my, shorthand, A1 dash, space, literate programming. And I'm going to put the author, and I'm going to put me, because that's who I am. And now, by default, you can make this publish into HTML, PDF, Word, when you click these things. We're going to just work in HTML for now, because I'm trying to position everybody to start creating visualizations that you then move to a digital portfolio. And that's very likely to be kind of an HTML framework, at least at first. But the thing is, even though you pick one of these, the reality is later on in the document, you can set it up to do all of them. Make an HTML file, make a PDF, make a Word document, make a slideshow, whatever you want. But we'll get there. So the knitter engine is fine. So use Visual Markdown Editor. I'm going to try unchecking this. I like to start just in the plain Markdown language. Not the Visual Editor is useful for some things, but I don't like to use it a lot of the time. So let's see what happens here. So there we go. I hit create, and it has created a thing. Now, when I say a thing, it's created a what's called a .qmd file, but it only exists right now in this little script window. And just to orient everybody, I've kind of arranged my RStudio situation in the default fashion. And so this top left quarter is where all of my scripts and documents and stuff will appear. This is where you see console and terminal type commands, and it also tells you sort of the R, what version of R you're running. It's showing me my working directory, which I'll show you how to set in a second. This is your sort of environment area, the top right area. And so when you start importing data sets and things like that, or you're starting to integrate with GitHub and version control systems, you're going to see options for those kinds of things up there. And then here, this is sort of a browser, so you can look at the plots you've made, you can install and manage packages, you've got a viewer, you've got your files, and things like that. So that's your quick orientation. And the first thing I want to do, though, is when we're working in just plain old documents, you really should tell RStudio where you want to put your files. What's your working directory? Well, you can set this up however you want on your computer and things like that. But an easy way to do this is, for now, is if you just go to session and you go set working directory, you can go to source file location, and it'll automatically. But first, what we should do is, see how it says untitled one? Okay, you got to differentiate between the title that you are going to print on your paper and the name of the file. And so let's go file, save as, and then, save this with a reasonable file name in the place you want your, BCB 504 or whatever the course is, stuff to live. In my case, I've put it in, you can see here, I've got a directory on my hard drive called teaching, and a data viz thing in there, and I'm just putting these examples in a recordings directory. Okay, and you can see that I have sort of piloted this idea, and I created a thing called A1 Lit Prog, and so I'm going to create something different so we can keep track of things. So let's just call it A1 Tutorial. You could call it A1 Literate Programming. You could call it A1 I Like Cheese. I don't care. Whatever you want. And I hit save. Okay, and now if I go to session and I just go set working directory to source file location, you see it didn't change because I knew where I wanted it to go. But then, like when you create your HTML file or your PDF, you kind of want it to go into your working directory. So hopefully I'm not going too fast, and you can pause and follow along and all this kind of stuff. Also, I notice I've already been yammering for 12 minutes, and the video is already about a gig. So awesome. Maybe I should chop this up into little chunks. I don't know. Oh dear. Anyway, let's do something before I stop for now. So we've got a new file, and I just want to walk you through. We did this in class, but just as a reminder, there's various sections in this Quarto document, or this Quarto file or whatever, that do different things. So this first section up here, lines 1 through 5, this is what's called the YAML header. It is delineated very specifically by 3 dashes on the top and 3 dashes on the bottom. And in the middle of those dashes is a variety of keys and values that define some of the metadata that will help Quarto render this the way you want it. This is what controls a lot of the look and output and operations and rules of your program that you're creating. And so in here we've just defined the title. Here it is. We typed that in when we created the document, the author, and the format we want to use. And for now, let's just stick with that. I'm going to show you all sorts of cool stuff you can put in there that really elevates some of your visualization tools. But for now, let's create a simple HTML document. And then we just go into plain old markup language. And so in this case, what we're telling it is, hey, as a second level header, so these, you guys call them hashtags, they're number signs, they're pound signs, whatever you want. 2 number signs, a space, and then a word that says that you format this text as a second level header. And just as an example, I'll just go first, let's do it all caps. Well, no, first level header. Okay. And then they tell you Quarto enables you to weave together content and execute finished document, and here's the website. And then it's like, okay, how do you run code? So this is what we call just kind of markdown syntax. Okay. This here makes this word bold. All right. But then you can embed code. So this is where it's literate programming. So we're describing the logic as we execute the code's purpose. And so you do that with code chunks. And there are 2 code chunks. One here, line 16 through 18, and one here, line 22 through 25. Those code chunks always start with 3 backticks, which is underneath the tilde on your keyboard usually. At least I'm looking at my keyboard, that's what it is. And then you have these curly parenthesis things, and then you tell it what language you want to use. So we're going to tell it R, but we could just as easily change that to Python, observable, JavaScript, whatever we decide we want to do. But we'll get there in another video. And in this case, all they're doing is they're saying, watch this, 1 + 1. Okay. Now, you can always run a code chunk without rendering the document by just hitting this little play button in the code chunk. So I just do that, and this is what the output looks like. And then if you look, they're telling you, look, hey, you can add options. And so here, we're making this thing, the number sign and then the exclamation point is like, those are options that are telling Quarto what to do in terms of the execution of the code. In this case, echo false means don't show us the code, just show us the result. And so when I push play, you can see that the result is 4. But when I render this document, you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, you've got a couple options for rendering, okay? So first, if you're just working in stuff, I think the default is preview in window. You can change this to preview in viewer pane, which is over here. So when I do that and I click this render button, it does a bunch of stuff. In my computer's decent, and so it goes fast. Eric's computer, like he says, is a potato, and so he'll wait 5 minutes for this to do a thing. And anyway, we'll find a way to deal with those kinds of things. And you can see here's a preview of our HTML document, and let's walk through it. Here's the YAML stuff, and some of that is rendered the title and author by default. If you specify those and don't tell it not to, it assumes you want to put the title and author in your rendered stuff. Okay? And then here's a first level header, and that's what that looks like. Here's a second level header, Quarto. That's what that looks like. And you can see a subtle line down here. And then here's the text, Quarto enabled, blah, blah, blah. And this hyperlink is active. I could click on it and go to the Quarto website. I'm not going to do that. Then we've got another header, running code, and you can see the render is bolded. And here, see how the code was 1 + 1. And then the result is 2. This little thing, watch this. The cool thing is, right? Remember, reproducible research. You want people to be able to see what you did and try it and things like that. So you could copy that code to the clipboard, and off you go. You could paste it into whatever you're doing. Obviously, wouldn't do that with 1 + 1. And then options. So we put in the echo false option, and it disables the printing of the code, and so you can see we only see the result, not the 2 + 2. And you see here how they've put echo false in backticks, right? That means, see how it formats it as code, right? Just like this was formatted bold. So that's the basic idea here. And this is the foundation of us kind of understanding what we're doing, making assignments that everybody can understand what you did and what the logic was and why you did it, formatting it well, and easily deploying it ultimately to your GitHub repository and your online portfolio. So that'll be the first video, and I'm going to stop here. I'll post that, and then we'll do some more stuff in a separate video.